Okay. Can we, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Three Nations Dementia Working Group webinar. Traveling is part of daily life. It's crucial to ensure that people with dementia can navigate it safely. Traveling safely with somebody who has dementia requires careful planning and consideration to ensure the journey is as comfortable and stress-free as possible. We have some information to help you achieve this, and we have a panel of experts in their particular field who will introduce themselves shortly to help you understand some of the difficulties that people have with accessing travel, particularly railroad and airline, which we'll concentrate on. Your participation is not just encouraged, but is vital. Your comments, responses, and questions are what make this webinar a dynamic and enriching experience. If you have any queries, please use the text boxes at the bottom of the screen. If you put your hand up, we won't be able to see you. And we will monitor the text boxes for any questions and address them as we proceed. Please note that our webinars are created, produced, and presented by individuals living with dementia. While we cannot handle individual queries, we're here to support you, and we will try to provide guidance through the text boxes on where you can get help, ensuring that you feel secure and confident in your journey with dementia. Our first panelist is Joy Watson. Morning, Joy.
Good morning, everyone. I think it is still morning, just about.
and Joy's going to talk about rail travel, but in particular, her role with a project called Traveling in My Shoes. So over to you, Joy.
Okay, thank you. Please forgive me because I've got what I want to say written down. So, in the years since my diagnosis, the topic of transport hasn't been talked about very much. But it affects so many people, not just those of us living with dementia, but anyone with a disability. I've always hoped we can improve our transport systems for people affected by dementia. Then everyone benefits, whatever the disability. Some months ago, I was part of a transport project called Traveling in My Shoes. This involved me going along with a rail livery group manager, showing him firsthand the difficulties we can face when travelling by train. Yes, I could have given this manager most of the information via Zoom or letter, but I was delighted when he said he wanted to accompany me on several journeys to see for himself the good aspects of the train travel, as well as the not so good. I was pleasantly surprised how he engaged with me and took a genuine interest. It felt good to have a voice rather than it being a tick box exercise. Some things were identified as being very helpful for the person with a disability and for the accompanying person. The disability scheme on the railways has, in my opinion, improved a great deal. But there's room for more investigation as to what our needs are and how the different train companies are going to meet those needs. One example for me was the training the staff had received. Dementia had its own quirky problems. I pointed out that being in a wheelchair, going from A to B, can be a frightening experience. Weaving in and out of the platform passengers, hoping the person in charge of the wheelchair was going to slow down a bit. Some people living with dementia have difficulties with perception. So when your ride takes you too close to the edge of the platform, you panic, by which time your brain has shut down and you are unable to tell the staff member what is causing the distress. This is where mobility staff training is vital. If someone with a disability has a bad experience, then it's likely that they are not going to use the service again. Transport by whatever means is part of an independent lifestyle. I rely on services that give me that independence. Why should I be cooped up in my home because the transport system hasn't got its act together? Praise where praise is due. My experience with the manager was very positive, and I know people will benefit from the day I travelled around my area. But we need more of these occasions where people can show the powers that be what would really help enhance our lives. I may have dementia, but I can still give an opinion if people bother to ask me. Thank you very much. Over to you.
And
Nigel.
thank you, Joy. Can I just press you on a couple of things?
Of course you can.
That I know the whole history between the travelling in my shoes, but it starts long before that, when we opposed all the ticket closures. Do you remember when we
That's
wrote?
right. Yeah.
And
That's a project in itself.
yeah, that was, yeah, I remember, you know, and we gathered 400 signatures of people who felt it was bad. And I'm not saying that we were the reason that they decided to sort of not shut the ticket offices, but I think we were part of the voices that said what would happen if you did. And I can't agree with you more on staff training. I travel quite a bit by train, and you know, I quite enjoy it when it works. When it doesn't work, it's horrible. But I think what I miss most is the soft skills of people. You know, when they come on the station, they don't recognise the staff, don't recognise that an elderly person with two lots of baggage won't get up those stairs easily enough to get on the train, and to be absolutely inclusive. They have to make the travelling experience that much richer. How effective is you know, dementia awareness training for trained staff? How do they respond once you've done the sessions for them? Because I know you've done a couple with people in Manchester Piccadilly. How do they respond back to you?
I think, like with diagnosis, every area is different, and we've still got a lot of work to do at individual stations. But as you say, if we can influence the training and help people understand that we do have particular difficulties with perception and all sorts of things, then I think they're more able to understand our needs and things that could make our travelling a lot easier.
You travel alone a lot, quite a bit, don't you?
At the moment, I do.
Yeah.
That's one way I try to keep my independence.
Yeah. Do you find it particularly difficult for a woman on her own?
Yes.
Irrespective, irrespective of whether you got a disability or not.
Yes. I think, not being sexist or anything, but I think I'm always looking over my shoulder, because if I've got a stick and a bag on my shoulder or something, I'm more aware of, you know, people approaching me or coming up behind me, which is another part of my dementia. I just can sense or wrongly see someone on my shoulder. So that is scary. But it won't stop me for as long as I can travel on my own, because I get so much help. I mean, I'm known from some of the stations in Manchester I'm known by my first name now.
Yeah, yeah,
So it works, but we've got to come alongside the staff rather than telling them, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. Coming alongside and having coffee mornings and just chatting. I think that's where things will change.
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, the work you're doing is appreciated by everybody, I think, because it's an effective work. But to let you all know that every area has a rail users group which you can join if you wish. So you can actually talk to the people who run the rail services in your area. And I think it's important because the decision to close the ticket offices didn't take into consideration any disability, let alone dementia. It just didn't. People rely on the ticket offices to tell them the best way to travel. People rely on the ticket offices for that comfort to be able to buy a ticket and know that they've got the right one and where to go. And I think it's beholden on all of us to keep an eye on these public services, because, you know, if you have services for the poor people, you tend to have poor services. And I think what we got to do is look at discounts, look at our safety, and certainly enhance the traveling experience by having more people visible on station platforms. Do you agree?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Joy. Our next contribution will be by video, and it's by Peter Middleton. Now, all of us have heard of problems with the blue badge system. The blue badge system allows you to park in places which you wouldn't normally be allowed to park, provided you got the blue badge. But the whole idea of the blue badge is not based on your ability to travel around, to walk around. In other words, you know, how mobile you are. It's how much you need to be safe, to have safe parking, which you can go to. You know, anybody who's ever tried to get their car back from a multi-story car park when they haven't got dementia is bad enough. But to do it on a very, very busy day when you know, when there might be a few cognitive issues involved. Well, Peter's video is going to tell us how to appeal against the decision. Should you be turned down for a blue badge? So if we can run the video, it's Peter Middleton next.
Hi, I'm Pete Middleton. I still drive, but have a blue badge. I had to fight to get it, but it really does help me. You know, on the 30th of August 2019, Mr. Grant Shapps, who was then the Transport Secretary, said, "We know that for some people, the possibility of not being able to find a parking space can make even leaving the house a challenge, which is why the blue badge is so important. The scheme, which is already a lifeline for so many disabled people, will make a huge difference to those with non-visible conditions, such as autism, dementia, Parkinson's and arthritis. It is my sincere wish that these changes will improve even more people's lives." So why is it still so difficult to get a blue badge if you have a diagnosis of dementia? I submitted my application 4 years ago now, nearly 5 years ago, about a year into my diagnosis of young onset dementia. Yes, I still drive. I retake my test regularly, and I'm always monitoring my performance. Driving is muscle memory. Mirror, indicate, manoeuvre, all of that sort of thing is just like walking or riding a bicycle. My problems lie with navigation, as with many people living with dementia, I guess. But I have a sat-nav, and I found coping strategies to enable me to drive safely, which is the overriding principle, And that ability to drive opens the doors for me to doing a lot of work around dementia and getting out and about in the community, which otherwise I couldn't do. It removes my isolation. Anyway, I put in an application for a blue badge, and in there I told them how my dementia affects me. I'm okay in busy places, but sometimes I become overwhelmed if there's too much sensory input, if there's too much noise and hubbub, if I get too emotional. I need to get away from it. I need to retire to my place of safety, the little cocoon of comfort, and that's my car. The thing is, I'm not very rational when I need to flee these places. And so I sometimes couldn't find my car. I just forget where I parked it. In a large car park, that can be a nightmare. In a hospital car park once, I couldn't locate my vehicle for, well, nearly an hour. Eventually I broke down in tears and somebody took pity of me. But the more I looked and the more I worried, the less I paid attention to other vehicles in the car park. And I would never have found my car. I don't know what I would have done if it wasn't for a member of the public helping me. But if I have a marked bay, I know just where I'm going to. Now, there are apps out there. You can press a button when you park your car and it'll tell you exactly whereabouts in the car park to go to pick it up. Well, that's good. But if you're driving on your own and you leave your car, you're thinking about getting to that appointment, doing that thing. And the last thing you remember to do is to get your phone out, get an app, and enter something into the app. You just don't do it. And by the time you realise that you should have done it, it's too late. So having that ability, not always, but when I feel I need it and the situation is right, to use that blue pass, that makes a heck of a difference to me. Now, I put some of that into my application for my blue badge, and it was refused. Individual councils seem to let their staff decide individually what merit there is in each application. And I don't think they're always aware of what the legislation now says. They think it's all about mobility. But it's not all about mobility, and it's up to us to make them see that when we put our applications in. We need to tell them how we feel on our worst day, how you feel, the distress you have when you can't find your car, when the emotion wells up and you make a fool of yourself by breaking down in public and being incoherent. My appeal was granted, and as you see, I've got my blue badge. But I had to remember, and this is my tip for you all. Well, actually, I've two. One, don't give up. If you're refused your blue badge, which I believe is your entitlement, put in an appeal. And secondly, in that appeal, please ensure that you let people know how things are for you on your worst day. That's important. They've got to know how you feel on your worst day. Anyway, good luck with your application. It will change your life if you get it. Thank you.
Well, I mean, how helpful is that, and how close to the point it is that the blue badge system is up to personal interpretation of each councillor. I mean, that is so bad. And it's not about mobility. You heard from Peter there. It's about perception of where you left your car, you know, if you have got mobility issues, and most people a lot of people with dementia have got that, then you know it's safe parking. It's all about safety and it's all about access. And I just like Mark, do you have do you have a blue badge?
Yeah, I do. And funnily enough, I was listening to Pete there. Uh, in our council, if you are on PEP and you get the mobility part of it, you are automatically told by them and they send you a form and you fill it up and you get the badge. So they actually contact you to get the badge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yet in other places you have to. How about you, Joy? Do you have a blue badge? You still
I
driving?
do. Yeah. And like Pete said, it's not just about a memory issue. For me, I might need to get quickly to a toilet. Now, if I'm driving round and round trying to find a space in a normal car park, I might have left it too late. So there's all sorts of other things to consider when you need a blue badge.
Yeah. Do you find that the public's reaction to somebody with dementia who's got a blue badge is, well, you can walk, why have you got a blue badge?
I have encountered that attitude, yeah. But there's another side to it as well that I've come across. There are so many forgeries for the blue badge.
Are there really?
Yeah, I've been into a few car parks and I've actually questioned, that they might not even have the disabled person in the car, but they're still using the parking space. And even at a train station, I've challenged the taxi drivers because they park up in the disability bays. And I say, it's not on, you're stopping people from who genuinely need those bays.
There's nothing that gets my goat more than when you go to say a small local station and somebody's parked in a disability bay because A is closer to the station and B, they know it's in sight of the CCTV, so it's a safer place to park. And they're running for a train, and you think to yourself, hang on, just wait a minute. This question to both of you really. Do you think there's proper enforcement of the blue badge system? In other words, are people questioned enough?
I think I've noticed, there are times when if you pull up in a big car and then you try and get out and they can see that you're having problems getting out, but they still think, why has he got a massive car if he can't get in and out of it? Not realizing, he is big and he needs a big car.
Yeah.
He needs a big seat to sit in. But yeah, I have noticed that people, like Joy says, there are some people that that drive for the disabled people, and it's the person who is disabled who's covered by the blue badge, not the driver himself. And there are times when it's annoying that you see them using it, especially outside the hospitals and that, where you have to park further away and you've got a lot more walking to do. So somehow it needs to be looked at in that sense. But again, it's that guy that you have, the security guard at the hospital. He hasn't got the authority to administer anything.
No.
So nobody takes any notice.
No. But I mean, I think there needs to be a uniformity around blue badges. That what happens in Derby happens in Manchester. What happens in Manchester happens in Southport. I think that's the way. You can't have this lottery of whether or not you get a very important assistance, because it's very difficult if you're accompanying somebody who maybe have as well as dementia as a comorbidity which affects their mobility, and it's very difficult, and it actually dissuades people from actually joining in society as a fully fledged member if they can't actually get to the places they want to get to. And my view is that the government needs to come clean on this. The councils don't like it because obviously they lose on car parking fees. But you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, if you're disabled, you're disabled. And dementia is a disability. It might not be a total mobility issue, but it certainly is a cognitive issue, and that's as difficult sometimes as a mobility issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks to Peter for doing that video for us. And our next attendee is Mac, who's going to talk about assisted travel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Travel.
Morning,
Travel. Nobody's. Travel. It's actually a process that can be enjoyable. You can enjoy traveling, and it brings some stress with it as well, because reaching your destination, whether you have a disability or not, you know, everybody's anxious to get there as simply, as quicker, and as simple way as possible. I always drove, and the reason why I drove was because I'm in my private personal space, and I can drive 4 hours at a time, no problems. I never tried public transport till recently, when I had to go to the conferences and I traveled on train. I didn't know that there was assisted travel as such available at that time. So first time it was a bit difficult, but then when I found out about assisted travel, it is that good that it's unbelievable. The minute you walk to the station, you're actually all the way through. You're taken to the platform and then eventually to the seat. And then when you get off at the end of the journey, you are met there as well. They know exactly where you are. They know exactly what your needs are, and you picked up and taken to wherever you need to go. But you know that assisted travel isn't just for people with disability. I've done research on it and then found out that if you are a non-English speaking person, you can also book travel assistance, and they will guide you all the way through to the best of their ability. And of course, you'll be picked up and taken to the destination that you want to go. The other thing that I really liked was the fact that you are allocated a seat and you're taken to that seat, so you don't have to find your seat or look for the number. And also, I noticed that they did it so that toilets and everything, exits are quite close, so you don't have to walk a lot. Uh, and I think it's something that's so important for people. And disability, there's two type. You've got visible one. You can see that somebody's got a wheelchair. They can see that. But with the invisible disabilities, I've noticed that the train stations and the airports recognize the sunflower lanyard, and because of that, they assist you anyway. But you know, no questions asked. And as far as assisted travel is concerned, that is free of cost. It doesn't cost you any extra to book that. You can do that when you book the ticket, and or you can do that when you actually go to the station, and they will assist you there. It's something that I think uh, senior citizens, people with disabilities, people who've got language problem, uh, should all use and get to the destination as quickly and as simply as possible. Thank you.
Mac, could you give us a little bit more information about the sunflower lanyard? Maybe some people don't.
Yeah, sun flower lanyard indicates that the person who has got that has got some sort of disability and he or she needs assistance. And I have used it at train stations and airport. Uh, it's a it's a bit like this. I haven't got one with me, but all you do is put it around your neck, and uh, they then know that you've got an issue of some sort and you need assistance. I had the lanyard around my neck in Manchester Airport, and although I didn't need wheelchair, they asked me if I need it, and that shows that they're well educated on the lanyard, and it's important that people wear it, and you can ask for it at the airport, and they will provide one for you.
Yeah, yeah. Assisted travel is vital for people who maybe feel a little bit nervous about traveling alone, or in fact with other people. And it's something really that all the companies involved with travel, and I'm going to be talking about airline later on, that people actually buy into the fact that if you make the journeys easier, and if you make the journeys much safer and more comfortable for people, the more likely they are to use your service. Do you agree with that?
I do, because it's crowd also matters. People with a condition, disability, dementia, they don't like the overcrowded places. So once it is recognized that the person's got issue, they take care of that, and it's something that I think it cushions the blow, if you like, because the journey, it doesn't matter whether you've got condition or not, it brings its own issues for a person. You want to get there as soon as possible. And I have also noticed that if you travel and the train stops at a station and other people get on, your anxious level goes up, because you're going to see some more strangers that you were used to for the last hour, and they got off, and now you've got some more strangers coming on, and it does bring its own issues.
Yeah.
And when you've got the assisted travel and you know that you're allocated that seat, you haven't got that worry of getting up and letting somebody else in, or to sit next to you, and that, and it all helps. Yeah.
I mean, there's some thing in the chat about navigating large, particularly London stations. I like regularly use Paddington, and it freaks me out when you're traveling through there at a busy time, which is anything between, the people dashing for trains, and most people are looking up at the notice board, not looking down at the ground. So, you have to be on your toes so you don't crash into somebody. But I always find that if you go to the travel assistance place and say, look, I'm traveling, I'm living with dementia, please could you tell me, they'll either take you or tell you where, the station is being prepared, the train is being prepared. Joy, I mean, we can't have too much assistance, can we? Really, when you think about it.
No, it's a fair
Sorry.
walk, when you get off the train.
Yeah. Joy, we can't have too much assistance, can
Yeah,
we?
you were breaking up a bit there, Nigel, but
Oh, sorry.
no, you're fine. Yeah, I back up everything that Mac has said, because I just go into a panic before I got used to using the assisted travel. I would be in the crowd with everyone else, and as soon as the platform number comes up on the board, everyone just charges towards that platform.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't cope with that. My dementia just wouldn't help, was really high on the stress level.
Yeah.
So now with assisted travel, I get taken to the train, like Max says, as it's being prepared. So I don't have to encounter that mad rush. There is one little thing that I'd like to point out, and I'd like it to be changed where possible. If you're traveling and like me, I like to save the pennies. I do a split travel. You stay on the same train, but when you stop at a certain station, you have to find another seat. It's a numbered seat and it's your seat, but you still have to find that seat to continue your journey. I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
That's insane, isn't it? You sat in
It
the
is.
seat on the same train, go to the same place, but you have
Yeah.
to swap it because you got a certain ticket.
Yeah, because you've got a split ticket, you're not allowed to stay in the same seat.
That's insane. That's insane. I mean, words fail me. Well, thank you both. I mean, I think the one thing is that I find reassuring is that more and more people now understand about assisted travel and now understand how you access it. And I touch wood, there's always going to be cases where it don't work. You know, you get put in the wrong train, or people don't turn up, or whatever it is. But we want a system where that's never going to happen. And the only way to do that is by engaging with the people who run the rail companies and engaging with people who are serving the public from the travel assistance. It's got to be said. I'm more confident now than I was, say, 5 years ago, when I go to these large London stations and make changes in particular. Well, thank you both. Unfortunately, the last person is me. And I'm going to be talking about something which I found initially very difficult to do, but now do it quite regularly, and that's airline travel. So if I could have the slides, Amy. Can we put it on slideshow? There we are. I think these are hints and tips, really. Traveling by airline for somebody with dementia is traveling by air is extremely difficult, because if you go through Heathrow, you're guaranteed to have or Manchester or any of the big airline big airports. Then the amount of over stimulation is huge. First, the people there were very busy. There's noise. There's shopping areas, which all noise. So if you are traveling by airline, or you have to, or you choose to, either accompanying somebody or traveling alone, then we have a series of tips that we'd like to share with you, which may help you have a more a better journey. And before the trip, planning and booking direct flights, whenever possible, book direct flights to minimize travel time and the stress of layovers. Now, what we mean that is if you're going from, I don't know, Dublin to Amsterdam, Dublin to anywhere, you have to wait in Amsterdam at the Schiphol airport, and anybody sat there in Schiphol, I mean, it's one of the biggest airports in Europe, and it's awful. So if you can book a direct flight, that's all the better, even if it means having part of your journey by rail to an airport. Inform the airline when you book your travel. Tell them you've got dementia diagnosis. Some airlines offer special assistance for passengers with disabilities. Well, all airlines do now, and it's very good. You just go to a meeting point. You have a special way of getting through security. You have a special way of getting through tickets, and you said then you're taken to a lounge where you can wait, and you're taken onto the plane. The only thing is, of course, you have to use a wheelchair. It's one of the one of the rules of all the airlines. You have to be in a wheelchair. And if you're unlucky and you have somebody like me who's 6'2" and the shy side of 18 stone, it's I thought James was gonna have a heart attack when he accompanied me to Brussels because he pushed me all around Heathrow. I mean, I really thought he was gonna go down. It's very important that you get medical clearance before you actually either invite somebody to travel or accompany somebody to travel, because it may be that their particular form of dementia, particularly is vascular or something like that, and may preclude them from traveling and obtain any necessary medical documentation or prescriptions for the journey. Travel insurance, ensure the travel insurance covers dementia-related issues. If it doesn't, I suggest you shop around. But usually sometimes there's insurance included with your ticket. Just check before you go. Packing essentials, identification and documentation. Carry identification and a doctor's note explaining the dementia diagnosis and any medications if you have any. Not necessarily, but if you've got somebody like a carer who knows you, you don't need to do that because they're there with you. Pack all necessary medications in the carry-on bag and a copy of the prescription. Now, you have to be very careful with the medications, because if they're opiate based, the sniffer dogs will have a go at it. You know, that's what they try to do. So it might be better to carry 1 day's dose in your pocket, you know, and the rest in your luggage, because the last thing you want is to be pulled out of a line and taken, you know, trying to explain why you got so much polymorph or something like that. What's very important is comfort items. Bring familiar items that can provide it covers, just a favorite blanket, pillow, or music player if you use one. And of course, my favorite, hydration. Airports are notoriously hot places. Even in the winter, they can be incredibly warm because a number of people are there. So make sure you've got enough bottled water to keep you hydrated and nourished throughout, and enough snacks. Don't rely on what they give you at the airport. I traveled to Bucharest. I remember, and the in-flight food was a large bottle of water held by a man with a plastic cup, and so unidentifiable Romanian crisps, which I never ate. Anyway, next slide, please. When you get to the airport, go for special assistance and book in there, and let them sort everything out from there. They will take you through security checks, explain the situation to the security personnel, so that you will have a smoother security check process. You don't want to be stood up taking your belt off and stuff like that, because if you have mobility issues, the likelihood of you falling over are quite high. They may ask you to do it. They haven't asked me since I've been using it. I never used to use assistance, and I found I nearly stopped going. Well, I did stop going or avoiding airline travel because I found it too anxiety provoking. And a guy called Nick Johnson said, "Don't be stupid, use assistance." But I did like the idea of being in a wheelchair. But you know, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. If you're accompanying somebody, stay close to the person with dementia throughout the security checks to provide reassurance and support. And the added bonus is, of course, they'll deal with you at the same time as well, so you won't have to go in the queue. Next slide, please. During the flight, arrive early to allow ample time for check-in and security. The last thing you want to be doing is running around the airport. Trust me. And you need time to sort of get your bearings, make sure you've got everything that you need, and make sure you're being supported the way that you can, the way that is best for you. Choose comfortable seats which provide easy access to the restroom, and consider bulkhead seats. So these are seats at the front of the plane because they have more leg room. you can in some cases book your own seats using the I did it when I went to Helsinki, and it worked very well. Unfortunately, the configurations are always 333 unless you're traveling first class, and I've never done that yet. It's on my bucket list, but I haven't done it yet. If you're traveling in a group or even traveling one person, stay together. Ensure you sit beside the person that you're traveling with, either if you've got a diagnosis or not, to provide continuous support. If you can, keep calm. You know, stay calm. It's anxiety provoking anyway. A lot of people don't like traveling by air, whether they got dementia or not. So to help that, you can engage and distract somebody by bringing activities such as books, puzzles, music, to keep the person engaged. And something which most people don't do, and maybe on short haul, not necessarily, but certainly on long haul, is encourage the person to move around the cabin occasionally to prevent stiffness and discomfort. Yeah, very important. And also it's very important if you want to avoid any problems with your legs in the future. Next slide, please. So you've arrived where you are and you're disembarking. If you've requested assistance, the disembarkment will be there when you disembark to pick you up and put you on a wheelchair and take you through security and everything else. Stay together. Don't, don't wander off because you've seen a shop which has got nice shiny things in it. Stay with the person who you're traveling with, or you're accompanying. Pre-arrange transport if you can. What this means is to book a taxi or get whatever organization you're traveling with, like Alzheimer's Europe, ask them to book a taxi for you, because you'll be in a strange country. You won't know the language probably, and you won't know where the hotels are probably. So I'm traveling to Geneva in October to the Alzheimer's Europe conference, and I'll be making sure all these things are in place for me. If you have a friend, a familiar face, if possible, have a familiar person to greet you at the airport when you disembark. Sometimes Alzheimer's Europe staff are there. Somebody like Anna Diaz or somebody will be there waiting at the airport to put you in the taxis. Next slide, please. And the general tips, I guess, maintain as much of a routine as possible and incorporate all familiar activities to provide comfort. Use simple, clear communication to provide frequent reassurance. Look for signs of discomfort or distress and address them promptly. And that includes yourself. If you're feeling distressed, tell the person you're traveling with, look, I'm feeling a bit wonky. They're not going to stop the flight mid-flight, but what they can do is the in-flight cabin staff would help you. Have an emergency plan. A lot of people don't like doing this because they're tempting fate, but make sure you have at least one emergency contact. Ensure the person with dementia always has identification on them, such as medical ID, bracelet, or something like that. But they will, if you're keeping the passport for them, or if you're traveling on your own with a passport, then that should be fine. But just make sure you keep an eye on all your documentation. By preparing thoroughly and considering the specific needs of someone with dementia, air travel can be a smoother and more comfortable experience for both the caregiver and the person with dementia. Would you take the slide down, please? Now, Joy, you're on mute.
Yeah, a quick question. You might not be able to answer it, Nigel, but my concern would be, like recently happened at Manchester Airport, if there was delays in the flights and, you know, hundreds of people around, where do the assistance people step in, and do they stay with you at the disability lounge, or
Yeah, yeah.
you know, I'd be interested to know what the procedure is really for people with disability.
There were three delays on I've been involved with traveling with Alzheimer's Europe. One was in Brussels, one was in Helsinki, and one was in Luxembourg. Each time the assistant staff took you to a lounge and said, wait there, and we'll come and get you when the queue is done, or we'll come and get you when the fog's lifted, or when the flights start. The one in Helsinki was because of fog, so there was a high chance of the flight being cancelled at one stage. But they came to us and they said, look, you know, the assistant staff came with us, and they said, look, if it's flight, if it's a cancelled flight, we book your hotel room. This is where you stay in, blah blah blah. So they're there to support you. They will not make you stand in those endless queues that you see on the television. That's not the purpose of it. And quite honestly, most of us couldn't anyway. You know, I couldn't queue. I saw pictures of Birmingham Airport where they were queuing outside in the street.
Over the weekend,
yeah,
Manchester Airport,
yeah.
everything went down, but it's nice to know that you're not abandoned.
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying from my own personal experience here. Again, I get overwhelmed, like a lot of people do, by too much sensory input. With the lights flashing and, you know, the noise and everything else, and airports are notoriously bad with that because they have to be well lit. They have to have lots of facilities there so people can spend their money. You know, that's what they do, as well as making people fly, allowing people to fly. They sell them things, and I've not yet made a duty free because I'm too bloody worried to, you know, I just want to get out of there. You know, I don't want to be hanging around with all that going on already. Mac, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I actually experienced this flight delay. My destination, you can't have a direct flight from Manchester or Birmingham. So you have to have it from Heathrow. So I booked a ticket from Manchester to Heathrow, and then from Heathrow to the destination. It was foggy at Manchester, so my plane took off 2 hours late. Consequently, I missed the connecting flight. Then they took me to the hotel and put me on another plane, rerouted me, and that had to stop in Doha. So I got on that plane, and it was foggy in London, and that took off late, and I missed the connecting flight in Doha. So I had to spend another night there. Well, you know, they looked after me so well. Had that assistant not been there,
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
Because it's too much for somebody with diagnosis of dementia.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were absolutely brilliant, and they took care of it.
Well, you know, I mean, I think that if you don't book assistance, then you're foolish. And I know there's this independence thing, and a lot of people think, well, if they're traveling with somebody, then they don't need the assistance because the person they're traveling with will provide that assistance. But not to use airport facilities, airlines assistance, it makes the whole thing a lot quicker. You know, you're taking in a special queue for security. You know, your bags are checked in quicker, and all the rest of it. The only thing I would say about it is not everybody needs a wheelchair, and you do feel a bit awkward, you know, sitting in a wheelchair, and they take you to the door of the plane, and you get up and you walk onto the plane. You know, it does cause a few raised eyebrows. It's got to be said, but I think a lot of that is you know, in the way you feel yourself. Anything that allows us to travel safer, anything that allows us to travel easier, be it plane, be it train or car, we should use. That was the purpose of this morning's webinar. So at that point, I'm going to have to close it down. Can I thank you both for being, and Peter in his absence, for your participation this morning. It's been marvelous. I hope the people that listened, who were participants as well, who are there listening to us, have enjoyed this. We're looking forward to joining you with it again, and I think it'll be in a shorter time where we will be talking research. Remember, all our webinars are about sharing knowledge, but also about building a community. So it's very important that we encourage people to come along and have a listen, have a say, and be part of it. This particular webinar will be on our YouTube channel. If Amy, can you put the details of the YouTube channel in quickly? Oh, yeah, we have. There we are. You can see it there. It's quite easy to access, and you can see the whole series of webinars on there. So all that's left to me is to say thank you very much for being here. Good morning to you, and have a nice afternoon. Remember, if it's hot, stay hydrated, because it's my favorite mantra, because it's so easy to forget to drink. It is so easy to do it when you're rushing from one thing to another. So bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy. Take care.